thank you very much for inviting me. We've got a couple of projects in WA, and I'm going to talk to you about our eDNA program, the Great Australian Wildlife Search, and a few other things we do around sanctuaries and farm environmental accounting, which hopefully leads into the where's Landcare heading in the next 40 years. So I just want to throw some ideas at you. But we work with Esperance Dallarack Native Title Aboriginal Corporation, and we've got a property we're working on with them just north of Esperance, so I got to go there. And I told Keith, and he said, let's do a road trip. So we've just been from Esperance to Albany the last few days and got to come and present here. So it's, again, really awesome to be here. And I had the pleasure of going to Sylvia's property. I was there when Arnie Olivia was singing. It was amazing. And I just couldn't believe the re-veg. I said it was 10 years old, and it was 5, the one we looked at, and it was just... I grew 500 trees, I was telling, in my life on our dairy farm, and that took a lot of work. To see so many get planted is unbelievable. So I'm always in awe of clever people. So I worked for government for 15 years in environmental policy in Victoria, and then I left because I thought the whole sector is so dependent on government and philanthropy. And I thought, I've got ideas. And I remember pitching an idea to one of my bosses, and he said, that's great, do it. And I thought, well, maybe I should quit my well-paid government job and live with my in-laws. And so I did it. I think it was a good decision. And in that time, I met Nigel Sharp. He's an impact investor and a philanthropist, and he owns Mount Rothwell Sanctuary, which I'll talk about quickly. And it's like, this man and his wife are having a crack, and I love it, and I want to support more people do that as well. So our whole motto as Odinata is to empower others to have a crack. Don't sit around and wait for others. We've got to get on and do. And so I helped to set up Odinata Foundation. That was about 7 years ago, and we get to have a lot of fun and do some great projects. So hopefully it's inspiring, and I realise we've got to do way more projects in WA. So keen to chat and talk through ideas you have as well.
8 minutes.
Well, I haven't pressed start. So the Great Australian Wildlife Search, so we work on genetics with our threatened species. They're all inbred. So Andrew Weeks from EnviroDNA has been working on our genetics for many years, and he said to us one day, hey, I've got this technology where we can take a water sample and it tells you all the animals that have been on or near that waterway in the last 2 weeks. And we said, whatever. And the platypus was being listed as vulnerable in Victoria, and we said, we actually don't know where the platypus is. Let's do a statewide survey. I rang up my old mates in government and said, you do waterway health monitoring, could you do this? And they said, we've been thinking about eDNA, we'll help you out. We raised the funds and we rolled out the largest wildlife survey in the world. I'm happy to be corrected, the largest citizen science project in the world with 2,000 samples across Victoria. And it was awesome, and now we feel this responsibility that we have to turn into a national program ongoing, and that's the duty we have in life at the moment, is to nationalise this. The data is amazing, but you probably need 2 samples a year, spring and autumn, and for 3 years is what you really need to get a really good feel. But to have a democratised revolution in wildlife monitoring where you don't have to go to university anymore, you can just go out there and take a sample, and in 5 minutes you can have an amazing understanding of the wildlife in your backyard. And so to have this continuous data, if you look at the Victorian Biodiversity Atlas, it's made up of data from people doing different methods for different animals in different times, so the data is just not consistent. So to have a once-off snapshot is so powerful. We're using it to help identify out where we put threatened species sanctuaries. It's open data. Just imagine the uses for this data ongoing. They're all our partners, but our job now is to make it a self-funding program. Imagine having a nationwide self-funding ongoing monitoring program, because these things are relatively cheap to do. It still costs a fair bit of money. But I also think it could be a fundraising tool for Landcare groups as well, so keen to unpack those concepts with you. So it identifies wildlife presence. That's all the samples we took in a couple of years ago, all through citizen scientists, 600 citizen scientists. My parents did it, I did it with my sons. It was just really easy and straightforward, and I've got a photo of what it is in a second. But it's open data, and our aim is to be self-funding in 2 years, which I think we're on track to be able to do it. We've got Patagonia just came on board, and there's a few more businesses. There's so many cool ways of marketing. We're talking about marketing to get others to be involved and get schools to do this and make money on the way through for you, and to be able to do the sampling. I think there's cool marketing things we can be doing. So this is some photos of people taking the samples. It's a syringe. It's probably the only syringe you want on a waterway. And you just take a sample, put it through that filter, send it to a lab in Melbourne, machine goes ping, and it's up against a reference of DNA across the nation. I think the CSIRO have got a great database as well. and it tells you presence and absence of the data, of wildlife. So 4,000 samples with 2,000 sites. We've detected platypus across 20% of those sites. This data has not actually been released yet, so you're getting a bit of a sneak preview of the Victorian data. Lots of animals, and I'm not going to go through the details with you. Please come and have a chat and we can talk through, but the data is just amazing. This is I think the bigger the circle, the more species we've found, and you click on those cells and it tells you all the species. Deer are everywhere. That's a bit of a depressing analysis that's come out of it. Here are some of the species we've identified, and it does have a preference, around aquatic species, and it does depend on animals going to the waterway. So the water acts as the vector to move the DNA from feces, skin, feathers, etc. We're testing air DNA as well, but it's all just about capturing the DNA and being able to match that against the reference library. I can't remember what this one was for, but I'm going to go through it quickly because I ate up 2 minutes at the start. So we started in Victoria, we felt this duty. Now we've got the Murray-Darling Basin on board. We just did 420 more sites across the Murray-Darling Basin, and we'll put the offer out to businesses and corporates to buy sites. And people are buying sites for their offices, for their family. We just want to have it that you get a pack that comes to your house every spring, and you go, we're off to the waterway this spring, family, let's go. And you unwrap it like a Christmas present and go take a sample and do it again and again and again. Because that repeated data, I think, is the real key. So we've done the Murray-Darling Basin, and look, it's blank over in the west. We've already got a business wanting to put in money to support this already. We haven't even done any promotion, so we'd love to focus on working with yourselves to package this up and promote it. The kits cost around $400 to $600 each, and that's to cover a staff member on our end and the analysis and the kits. So it's a little bit expensive, it's not massive, but there's ways to subsidise that. We want it that schools and any citizen can just get it for free, but you still need to find a way to subsidise it. But there are models that will work to make it possible. So yeah, get back a school. Like, I love the idea that you could, I don't know, it depends on how much you spend on Christmas presents, but maybe $400 isn't too much to buy for your grandkids or your children to do a kit. So we're just trying to find these different ways for you to be able to support people to go and take these samples, and for us to package it up for businesses and councils. Imagine a council saying, I'm going to do 50 samples in our shire, and we'll use that to develop a local action plan by and for citizens of the community. I think it's just you don't have to sit around waiting for, against the scientists to come and do the analysis and spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, which we should still do, but there's other methods there available that we've just got to be clever and creative and market this stuff. So jump on wildlifesearch.org.au. I don't think there's any samples left in the Murray-Darling Basin, but you could have picked one up and gone for a drive and taken a sample if you're quick enough. But they're all taken up. The data will be out in a couple of months, and hopefully we'll do some in Western Australia for autumn coming up in 24. So that's what we do. So we try and do projects that can scale and can build a business model. We didn't know there could be a business model for this monitoring. Who can build a business out of monitoring? We're trying to figure out how to do it. That's our job, is to find more money to support threatened species programs. We build sanctuary fences and threatened species protection, and fences are controversial, but we know they work. We just put 30 eastern barred bandicoots into our Tiverton farm, which is a 1,000-hectare farm, and now there's 3,000 within 18 months. So foxes and cats just eat too many things, and fences work. Our job is to pull the fences down in 20 or 30 years, but we're building a network of 50 across the nation. We've had hundreds of landholders come to us saying they want to do sanctuaries. We do a coaching program. We won't let them in if there's no business model to be able to fund it ongoing. We do work to try and fund the fence up front, but we want to have this network so we can move animals around, do outside the fence research, and one day pull the fences down in a great celebration and have our wildlife running alongside us once threatened. But our job is to empower, so we're not here to displace or take over. We just want to empower, find weird ideas and pursue them, and encourage more people to have a crack and support the great work you do across Western Australia. Here's some examples. So I've got a minute left. This is Mount Rothwell, west of Melbourne. If you go to Melbourne, please come along and do a night tour and see some of these endangered, threatened species like the eastern barred bandicoot, which is the third animal to be downlisted in Australia's history through that Tiverton sanctuary I'll show you in a second. And it's a big 6-foot-high fence that nothing can get through, and they're the things that work. We're doing smart fences now with object identification to allow animals in and out the fence, so we're trying to allow for flow, but it's just a matter of getting the right tech. Tiverton is a 1,000-hectare farm. And we're building a couple more of these sanctuaries on farms. So it's a fully operational sheep operation, and they have bandicoots and quolls running alongside them, which is really, really cool. Will and Bear sponsor it, and we're about to make hats out of the wool from that farm that they're also put in the bandicoots. So it's really, really exciting. And this is a 10,000 acre farm. We helped get a soil carbon contract, and it has a sanctuary on it. So there's all these different models of how you can fund these sanctuaries, and our job is to help you think through that, or to tell you to stop because it's going to be too hard. And then lastly, Farm Environmental Accounts has just finished this 5-year project funded by Landcare. And I think this is the future. We need to get data to the farmers on what nature means for their business operation and build it in. And we've got 40 buyers from across Australia who feel this responsibility to buy from farmers who work with nature. But where do they find them? What does that mean? Where's the data to show that they do work with nature so they can preferentially purchase from farmers working with nature? So I think this data around nature is the key for Landcare to support every farmer to have this data and use that to find more ways to be profitable, whether it's in your productivity, marketing, when you sell your property, to know you've got 10 years of environmental data. So I think the farm environmental accounts are a ripper and something I'd encourage Landcare to think through. Thank you.
Thank you. I will say though that my involvement with the National Parks Association has been in a lot shorter time frame, so all of the achievements so far really can go out to other people. So anyway, yes, I'm a committee member with the Walpole-Nornalup National Parks Association. I'm also an environmental consultant and an invertebrate ecologist. But today I'm just going to give a bit of a rundown of the Walpole Wilderness Bioblitz that we've been running for the last 3 years. Where are you? There we go. So I guess to start with, what is a Bioblitz? So essentially it's taking community members and it's taking scientists and it's bringing them together in a specific area over a short period of time, usually over a weekend or a couple of days, and taking a range of fairly easily accessible techniques to gather as much data on the biodiversity as possible. So, that's right, I'm getting confused by my own, but I need to change my notes. So, the approach that we've largely taken with our Bioblitz is using the iNaturalist app. Now, this particular platform, for those not familiar with it, is linked with the Atlas of Living Australia, ALA, and also with the Global Biodiversity Information Facility. The numbers up the top are just for Australia. So since iNaturalist has been running, they've received 6.7 million observations. They have over 28,000 people who put their time in to identify photos that people upload, and nearly 80,000 people that have uploaded photos. So for us, it's easily accessible. People download it on their phones, and we essentially get them out taking photos of whatever they find. So the Walpole Bioblitz has been running for the last 3 years. We run it so far during October, in the middle weekend of the school holidays. And so far, over the 3 years, each year has attracted between 150 and 170 participants. The site selections, so the top left was the first one in 2021, the bottom last year, and the large one off to the east is this year just gone. Within those areas, we go through a bit of a site selection, largely based around the sorts of habitats that are through the area, and particularly unique ones. So there's a bit of a focus on peatlands, on granites, and then through the different sort of forest types that occur through there. Through the iNaturalist app, each Bioblitz is given its own project. So if you go onto the iNaturalist website, and I encourage you to do so because it's a really fantastic tool, you can go through and you can have a look at the projects as they currently stand, and there's a lot of data that it pulls from that. And a lot of the power with this really comes down to the scientists and the naturalists who put their time into identifying species. So you don't need people on the ground with you. You just need people who are, I guess, competent with taking photos and then being able to upload them, and then you get the joy of sitting back and watching various experts come in and try and identify the things you find. What we can see here between the 3 years, and I've got the same page for all three. You'll see as we've gone through the 3 years, we've increased the number of observations, number of identifiers, and you'll notice as well that down the bottom it shows the top 5 observations, and in each of those years there's a couple of similar ones, but we're getting different species that are coming up as the most common. Each project runs, even though we have it over a weekend, we run it for a 12-month period. So the project itself, so 2021 and 2022 have finished, but the 2023 project will run until June 30 next year. So there's still opportunities for people, if they're in that area and they hook in with that project, that they'll still upload observations. And the National Parks Association runs mini blitzes during the year as well. So we do get out at different times of the year just to sort of fill in some gaps. Oh, go back to this one. One thing that's been really interesting is the competitive nature of people when they're out on site. So as you can imagine, people get a bit into it, and they try and get as many observations as they can. Of course, the locals tend to do really well because they're there all the time. But it's a really good vibe that gets created, and we also find that the people doing the identifying, even though they're not there, they sit there waiting. They know that it's on. They want to see the stuff that we're finding. And because it's an area where there's been so little survey work, they know there's going to be something come up that's really interesting. So it's created a really nice community, both on the ground as well as that broader community. So, as I said, each year we've had between 150 to 170 people. It comes with its challenges logistically, particularly when you take into account that there's a lot of families and a lot of children as well. We're also working out... 2 minutes? Sorry. That's okay. We're also working out in the bush. We're working remotely. We have a very, very big focus on making sure that people are staying together. We have a lot of experienced scientists that come out with us as well. I would say probably anywhere between a quarter and a third of the participants are either scientists who have field experience or people, naturalists, amateurs who spend a lot of time in the bush. And that's obviously a really important aspect. We want to make sure that everyone's safe. So this is the top of Granite Peak, and this illustrates the sorts of areas that we do get to. Obviously taking a lot of care with who can go on those sorts of walks. And then the opposite of that is that some people don't get very far from the house. But we do have, like I said, we have a lot of kids, we have a lot of families. So we do take a lot of care, making sure that everything's in place to ensure everything's safe. The social aspect is really important, and we put on two nights where there's presentations. We have a big dinner. There's a real community atmosphere, and more than once you hear people comment about having found their tribe, or finding just love being out with like-minded people. The scientific side of it obviously is also important, and as a scientist myself, it's been really good to see how you can bring together fairly, I guess, loose sort of techniques in terms of just taking photos, and how that can come together alongside scientists to actually build a really valuable data set. So the beauty of having people, other scientists along, so the WA Museum, people like Katrina Syme, mycologist, it's been amazing to see a lot of those lesser known groups, such as fungi, liverworts, mosses, invertebrates, getting some significant data. Some of the inverts we pick up that go onto iNaturalist, a little box of mantis. They're all very small. We pick up some things like velvet worms, which are really amazing. We use camera traps, which go out for a few months.
No traps, just
Motion sensing cameras, sorry. And we also use, we're starting to incorporate eDNA techniques through a broader peat research project that's about 12 months in of a 5-year program. So overall, it's been really great to see not just the community engagement, but how that data can transfer into really valuable scientific data, particularly in an area that is so diverse, yet we know so little about it, and it's still, as probably many of you know, facing a lot of potential threats at the moment through feral animals, prescribed burning, climate change.
mining.
Well, I'm not sure about specifically in here, but certainly in the southwest, mining, yes. So, yes, thank you.